On today's episode, it's just me and Jamie, so stay tuned for some shenanigans.
Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
And it's just the two of us today because, as everybody knows, our dear friend and co-host Rhonda is going through some health issues right now, and she has our prayers, and I know that she has the prayers of those of you out there. And it's so funny. I always want to say like TV land. You know what I mean? Like I'm completely aging myself. Like this is like, what do you even call it? The weboverse? I don't even know what you call people out there, internet friends.
Yeah, I don't know. All the Christian indies out there.
Oh, the Christian indies. We know that you're praying and sending Rhonda your love. And then, can you believe Christina Cattane, Jen, asked for an excused absence today?
She thinks that she's just so special because her son is getting married. Like,
I
that's
mean,
more important than this podcast. What? Ugh.
But honestly, we are so excited for Tina and for the bride and groom, and we hope that they have a wonderful and blessed day. And we're very, very happy that Tina decided to attend her son's wedding as opposed to coming to frolic with us. We're absolutely joking. And Jen, it's just you and I today. There's another one, just you and I. Okay, so anyway, we are going to be joking around. But first, we're going to do our what's ups, right? Should I go first?
Go first. Sure. I don't care.
Okay. I have today another stoic bit of wisdom paralleling the Bible. And I'm going to say the Bible verse first this time because it's one that I referenced before. It's Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. And the reason I went back to that Bible verse is because I thought it was pretty befitting. I thought about to everything there is a season, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, because the Stoic quote that I want to share with you is like this. This is Seneca, and he says, we ought therefore to bring ourselves into such a state of mind that all the vices of the vulgar may not appear hateful to us, but merely ridiculous. And we should imitate Democritus rather than Heraclitus. The latter of these, whenever he appeared in public, used to weep, the former to laugh. The one thought all human doings to be follies, the other thought them to be miseries. We must take a higher view of all things and bear with them more easily. It better becomes a man to scoff at life than to lament over it. And to this, that he who laughs at the human race deserves better of it than he who mourns for it. For the former leaves it some good hopes of improvement, while the latter stupidly weeps over what he has given all hopes of mending, given up all hopes of mending. So I think that that's really a great download of wisdom to try to impart to everyone, because it's helpful to me. Jen, what do you think?
Not a whole lot. I'm just kidding. Like, as you're reading it, I'm really paying attention. I'm like, she's being very deep today, and I'm not in that mode. Like, this is not what I expected from you this morning because of like what the episode is.
Yes.
And so I was like really trying to yes, like when this is what I got out of it. When life is falling apart, you have two choices. You can look at life and you can just be like, oh, woe is me. Or you can just like find the joy in things and you can laugh. And that's what today's episode is going to be about, is just laughing. And so that's what I plan on doing.
You turned that into a segue? What? I can see your radio training has come in very handy. But I gotta say, that's really the gist of it. And you know, the Stoics are known for kind of being robotic, and it is what it is. And I guess there was a little bit of conflict back in the day over whether Democritus or whatever, however you say his name, was too lighthearted about things. Like he laughed
Mm.
too much. Instead of being like, it is what it is, he would be like, oh, life is so funny. But there was all kinds of overlapping of the different philosophies back then. So it's allowed. So Jen, what is your WhatsApp?
Well, mine is not a laughing one either, but most people I think have already heard by now. But I just want to share with everyone who's listening now or watching that my mother did pass away. She
Yeah.
passed away last Thursday, the 14th. She was surrounded by her family. We were all there with her when she passed. We had the funeral this week, and my mom was beautiful and was a godly woman, and I miss her very much. And
Well,
that's my
thanks.
what's up.
Thanks for sharing that beautiful picture. Is that the front of a handout that you had available for
Nope,
mourners?
this was the first thing of the video that I made for her.
Great.
So,
Yeah.
yep, that's her.
Yeah.
Oh, that was her senior picture. So,
Wow.
yep, yep.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with us. We all were expressing our condolences to you in our Facebook
Mhm.
group, and we all have been praying for you
Yeah,
continually.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Still could use the prayers. It's still a shock to me. No matter what, you're not prepared. Like, you think you're prepared, but you just are not, right? So, because even though my mom got diagnosed years ago with Alzheimer's and she was still, very much with it. So we were able to have, like, the tough conversations. She, surrendered her license, like, right then, she's like, then, so there wouldn't be fights later um, like and then it's been getting worse and worse, but, like, when she passed, it just happened really fast. Like, she went from being an Alzheimer's patient to actively passing, and it was just, like, a shock to us, but, we're doing good. God is good, and I know I'll see her again someday, so that's where I'm at. And thank you, everybody. I know that the listeners have been praying for me, and, yeah, I see Shell says, "Big love and hugs, Jen." I appreciate that. Maria says, "So sorry for your loss." Um, and then, Joan says she's been praying for us all. I really appreciate that, guys, our ladies, and yeah, so that's my what's up, but
Well, we did, of course, find it impossible to have a podcast last week based on that news. And so we also want to prep you for the fact that we are also not able to broadcast on Friday. What will that be? The 30th, Jen?
nope, it's the 20 oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
29th. 29th?
Because
I can't do math.
yeah, Jen and Tina won't be available to do a podcast, and I can't carry it alone.
Yeah, Tina and I have a scheduled vacation, that it's been scheduled for quite a while now.
Yeah.
It's always the same week. So we've known that we weren't gonna have that, so.
All right, so we've got you all up to speed. Time for the shenanigans to start.
Thank
And
goodness, I'm ready for some shenanigans, to be honest.
yeah. So when we knew we were going to be down one Christina Cattane, and we haven't had Rhonda for a while, Jen and I are like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to fill the time? And we're like, why not just have a little bit of like, ask me anything, you know? And I'm like, that is a great idea, Jen. And I got sort of like in my head, there's an old TV show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? Some of you might be familiar with it. And they used to do scenes from a hat where they would have all of these scenes just like in a hat, and then they would pull one out, and then the two actors had to act out that scene. So I literally took a bunch of questions and cut them up and put them into a hat
I was
because
supposed to too. My hat wait, I have it hold on. I have Will's hat. This is this is what I was gonna do. I
yeah,
have
you should just wear it.
So, okay, I'm gonna put mine in the hat while you, fill time. So, yes, but we also got some really great questions in our Facebook group. I was super excited about that. If you're listening to this or watching this and you have not joined the Facebook group yet, you're really missing out, honestly. There's great community happening over there. But,
I
yes, we're
couldn't
gonna go
believe
back
the
and forth.
questions that were there. Yeah. And it's I got my questions from two sources, their internet, Women's Health, and then unfortunately I can't name the other site to cite it. Oops, I can't remember, but The deal is the other one was kind of like fun questions to ask your friends to get to know them. And I had to edit some of those out. Like
Mm,
I decided not to ask you whether or not you've already done a number 2 today.
nice.
So
I'm
that question did not make it into my hat, but it just goes to show you there's a little bit of really off the wall questions in here. So when I read our listener questions, I was like, they are putting me to shame with their question asking. Like they like ask a writer and you shall receive. They're very articulate and awesome questions. So we for
right.
sure are going to explore some of those, right, Jen?
Yes, and just so everyone knows, I got my questions from my head. So we all know.
Oh,
Yeah, that's not a good thing. That's right.
we should go first. Maybe we should both answer one of the questions from the Facebook group. What do you think of that idea as far
Yeah,
as
let's
going
do that.
first?
Let's
Should we
do
just
that.
ask the first one? Like I haven't been over
Sure.
there. Okay,
Yep.
so let's just go to the group. It's called the Listeners of the Christian Indie Writers podcast. In
Because
case
we're
you did.
super creative with names.
Well, that's how we came up with the name for the podcast too. Like, what
Right.
is it exactly?
No,
All
we
right,
didn't want
so
it to be hard for anybody to find it, right? Like it's
yeah.
supposed to be easy. So
All right. So Elizabeth Henderson, what location do you want to travel to for book research? Ooh, man, when you put the for book research on it, now I suddenly have to invent a book I want to write.
well, I talked in the past about I wanted to go to Montana, but
Mm.
for the Widows of the West, but I have decided for sure I'm setting it in Texas. So
Ooh.
yeah. So possibly that, but I would love to visit Ireland and Scotland and maybe set a book there. But I think that if I were to do that, it would be actually a contemporary, not a historical. I don't know why. But
Hmm.
hmm.
Now, see, I really would love to go to Europe, and not just to visit Maria Johnson, but also
Well, that's where I'm staying for free so that I can afford the trip.
um, but for research, I would not mind going to Philadelphia. It is
Mm.
not like my current novel analog is dependent that things really be the way that Philadelphia is now, because Philadelphia does not exist as Philadelphia in the time of the book. But
Mm.
that is, for whatever reason, where my book is. It's way future, but it is
Mhm.
Philadelphia. And if I could find a place that happens to look exactly like what I'm picturing in my head as I'm creating the world, that would just be like super fun for me.
Mhm.
And so that would be my answer to that question.
Awesome.
All
All
right.
right. From the hat,
Yeah.
your hat or my hat?
You.
Just so you know, I only have 3 questions.
Oh, well then
So
I'll go. I gotta
no, I
go.
mean, like, it's okay. Like, you only get to pull 3 of yours. So, all
Oh,
right, ready?
yeah.
Toilet paper, over or under?
Over.
Absolutely.
Over.
Absolutely. What kind of psychopath does it under? Like, what in the world? What is the whole point of that?
I think people who have a cat,
Oh, yeah. Well,
because
I don't
then
have
the
a cat.
cat can't unfurl it.
Hmm.
Are there any unders in the chat? I must know. Oh, but look in the chat. Maria says, LOL, I was going to say yes, come to the UK, but not sure you could come stay. Oh, she's hedging the bets already. Maybe we'll get a cottage in the Lake District or something.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I'd be down with that.
Shell
Shell
says, yeah, go.
I need a trip to Maine and a trip to UK. Okay, Maine is beautiful. Absolutely worth going there for sure.
I want to be in your suitcase because I know why Maine, and I have a very similar reason for wanting to see it. It's sort of a bucket list for me.
Okay.
Maria
You don't wanna share
Johnson.
with us what this bucket list.
Oh, it's she was writing a fanfic, a Stephen King. Well, it's not a fan. Like, how do I explain it? She was writing a book about Stephen King fans. That's what it was,
Oh, I
and it
see.
would be set in Maine. Like they were all gonna go to Maine and like do like a Stephen
Ah,
King experience thing. And so
gotcha.
Maine was the destination because, of course, that is where he hails from, and there's where he's always writing about. So Maria wants Shell to come to the UK also. All right, so we now know that we are both overs, and we didn't get anybody to confess to being an under. So now what does this question say from the hat? All right, Jen.
Yes.
If a strand of spaghetti accidentally went out of your nose, would you sniff it back or pull it out with your fingers?
I would totally pull it out with my fingers, and how in the world would it end up there? You mean like how milk comes out your nose? Is that what you mean? Oh, that is but depending on the company that I'm in, I might pull it out and, like, pretend that it's not spaghetti. Like, I might, like, really flourish it. Let's be honest. If it was with you ladies, it would probably that's the only way it would come out of my nose is if I was laughing
Laughing.
so hard with you guys. So,
Yep, yep,
yeah.
yep. So in that case, all bets are off, I would say.
Because if you try bringing it back in, it would go in your lungs, right? Because there's nothing to stop it when it's going through the nose.
Well, it could come back into the mouth. It depends. Like, is half of it already in your? I think I'd pull it out this way. Like, if I'm being honest, because that
Oh,
would mean it's like,
because you know where it's been and now it's coming. Ugh, that's so gross.
well, I wouldn't want to have the sensation of it like flossing my throat either way. It's like, what a horrible question. So I apologize to her. Listen to our two questions. And meanwhile, our readers' questions are completely awesome. I'm going to, except for, okay. So the other podcast host asked, why is Christina Cattane the best fantasy author ever? Jen, would you? Listener questions are so good. Okay. So, like, I'm going to just jump right to the next one. Name an actor or actress whom you have used or would like to use one day as an inspiration for a character. You got one, Jen?
Hold on a second. Sorry, I thought we had an emergency and we don't. Okay, so for me, yes. So I started off with kind of picking actors as inspiration for when I was writing some of my books, but then it changes because my characters become real to me, and then they actually become like their real person, their own
Yeah.
person, and I don't see that anymore. So for John, Paul Walker. Because tall, lanky, blonde, but John kind of morphed into a different person that I can't even he's just in my head. I just see him. And originally, Esther Gigi Hadid. Do you know who she is? She's a model. Originally it was her. So yeah. And then for Warren, you and I went back and forth with Warren, but do you know who Zachary Levi, who
I
plays
think I know who
Chuck?
that is.
Yeah, he's kinda tall and lanky, he's funny, so it was a mixture between him and there was one other actor, I can't remember now, but it's funny because, like, these characters do become real to me, and then they no longer really actually resemble that person, but it is a starting point for me, so I do often pick somebody just so I have, like, a visual in my head so that when you're describing them, like, it's like, you keep it consistent, you know? What about you?
Absolutely.
What about you?
Well, there's only one, and the character Theo Brown is based off of not Chris Pratt, but off of Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec, who was
Yes,
played by Chris Pratt. Like,
yes.
that is who Theo is. He is that guy living this adventure. And it was so fun to write because the character of Andy Dwyer is just this lovable goof of a guy, you know, I just that's the only one that I could say, and that's even who I picture as I'm picturing the events of the story as I'm writing it along.
And when you were writing that the first time, we were at a writing retreat, and on the way back, I rode with our friend Gina, and we got going. Like, it's a kind of big long story, and I'm pretty sure we share it in a early on episode of the podcast. But part way home, because we were not riding with Jamie and Rhonda and Tina, we call them and we say, our car broke down by the dolls. Now, keep in mind, we're up north Michigan, and there's this property that they put a bunch of creepy dolls out, and they make them look even creepier. We don't know why, but they're there. And so we made it sound like we were like desperate. We had like broken down and we were by the dolls and we were scared, something like this. And then it wasn't true. And we were laughing really hard because they didn't want to come back and help us, you know. Well, then I don't know, 10 minutes later, we ran out of gas. Like, we literally had, and we needed help, and they would not come back and help
We
us.
did not believe
They would not help us. Like, so, and because we couldn't stop laughing. And I'm like, the fact that we're laughing should tell you that it's true. Because before that, when we were lying, we were like totally straight, like, oh my gosh, we're so scared. But we were laughing. And because we couldn't stop laughing, they didn't believe us and they did not turn around. They did not come back and help us. So we had to call actually a tow truck just to bring us gas. And I'm not kidding. Theo from Jamie's book showed up. The guy that was the tow truck driver was literally this character that if you can imagine Andy Dwyer and you can read her book Second Nature. Like this is the guy that showed up to bring us gas and we just looked at each other without even really talking. We're like, and as soon as he walked away, we're like, oh my gosh, are you thinking the same thing I am? It was crazy. So
They tried to take his picture. He did not want his picture taken. So then they tried to sneakily take his picture. It barely worked.
Yeah, we have it's somewhere. It's probably at a social media somewhere. Like not like posted for like just for us, like probably in a group, one of our groups or whatever. But yeah, I'm trying to be all slick, like, but it didn't work because we were laughing. That's the other thing too is we couldn't stop laughing, and I'm like trying to hold my picture, and he is looking at. He was not trusting us, which he shouldn't have. It was the whole thing was just ridiculous.
It sounds like the most fun anybody ever had being broken down on the side of the road.
I'm sure, which I'm sure he does not. He probably thought we were drunk. Now that I think back, like, what are the things that this guy deals with on the daily basis, right? And here we are, two young. Well, she's a young girl. I was pretending to be a young girl, and we were like laughing so hard we can't keep our eyes open. You know, how you get that point where there's tears and your cheeks are up here, and you hey, that's where we were. And he's probably thinking there's something wrong here. Like, I don't know. So yeah. That was a great weekend. That's a great book. And yes, I forgot you had based it off of him. But totally, when you read that book, you can totally feel it. You totally see it. So
available in Kindle Unlimited. Okay,
yeah.
So Jen, why don't you read me one of yours?
Okay.
All right. Questions from Will's hat coming at you.
Favorite coffee flavoring?
Oh man, favorite? Okay. All right. I'm just going to give you a long soliloquy about favorite anything. I have PTSD about being asked my favorite anything because when I was a little girl, I was asked my favorite color and I had no idea the ramifications that decision was going to have. I had no idea that once you said your favorite color was pink, that every decision forevermore would mean you end up with the pink one, right?
Oh.
And I only said pink. My sister said purple. I think I might have picked purple. Well, she picked purple, so I'll pick pink. And then I discover, as I'm growing, that your favorite color can change. Maybe I'm not so much into pink now. Now maybe I'm into blue. But anybody who hears you say, my favorite, it feels like you've decreed it. And you've stamped it into stone, and forevermore you're the girl who likes pink. So I get all anxious when people ask me my favorite anything, and I want to hedge and I want to make a caveat and I want to say, well, it depends on this and it. So anyway, there's my PTSD story. But favorite coffee flavoring for now
Currently
I would say vanilla. I'm a
really
vanilla fan. I really like it. Yeah. What about you? You got a favorite?
I am currently on a kick of chocolate, hazelnut, and caramel. So it's like kind of like a Ferrero Rocher in my coffee cup.
And can we take a minute to talk about your coffee cup bling? What is going on there?
Oh, I forgot I got this big coffee cup. Whoops. See how much bigger it is than my old one? I should have an old one out here. Because like the other one was just too small. Like I don't know. This is probably 7 cups of coffee in one shot. I don't really know. But it has this little like thing here.
Yeah.
And I was constantly trying to put my finger in it and carry it. And I'm like, what in the world? So I found this. You're supposed to be able to hook your like wallet to it or keys or whatever. So now when I'm walking around the yard, I just have to do this or I grab it like this. Like, how lazy am I? Number one. Number two, how attached am I to a beverage? Like
literally.
I always have a beverage.
To it.
I always drinking something like water. It's not always coffee, like water, maybe a soda every so often, a pop, whatever. But yeah, like I was so excited when I did that, but like I didn't realize it was gonna cost everyone who sees it's like, why? I didn't think anyone would even notice, but
they're just jealous because it looks really cute. Like you got a little tassel on there and everything. That's super darling.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm gonna make it a thing.
I'm gonna go back to our chat, and this is great,
All right, well, let's
Jen. Yeah,
okay,
what,
go
what, what,
ahead.
what?
No, go ahead.
Teresa Thomas asked, this is a really good question.
Oh, wait,
What
I
right?
thought you meant our chat. Let's go to our
Oh
chat
no.
real quick.
Yeah, go,
Shell
go.
thinks that throat flossing might have to end up in a book. Yeah, no kidding.
Mhm.
Um, Maria agrees with Parks and Rec. She's a good one of her favorites. Shell agrees with that as well. Amy Larry says vanilla, me too.
Yeah, Amy Team Vanilla.
Yep. And Shell says, LOL, serves you right. She's talking about me. Me,
The
me and Gina.
girls who cried wolf.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Whoops, it's going fast. Shell says, I'm not much of a Starbucks fan, but their caramel cold foam is delicious.
That
At
sounds
home, we
good.
drink donut shop black. Jamie, you talked about black before that, like, you, if you're gonna eat like a donut or whatever, you have to have black coffee.
Yeah, yeah.
Not me. I have
Mhm.
everything has to be sweet. Like, I use sweetener. Like, I use all natural sweeteners, like monk fruit and stevia, but I gotta have it sweet. I can't do black. I'm
Oh man, a plain cake donut and a cup of black coffee. Man, what a treat. Mhm.
your definition of treat and my definition of treat are way different.
The one thing I might say though is I really do like having heavy whipping cream in my coffee because I like the feel of it in my mouth.
Mhm.
So I might still do the heavy cream even though I've got something sweet with it, but I like for my baked good to be the sweetener of the
Mm.
coffee. Mhm.
All right, next question.
All right. So check this question out. What writing practices or techniques do you use now that you wish you'd known about when you started writing? Along the same lines, what writing crutches or vices do you have? Example, must have a can of Coke or bag of
Mm,
M&Ms hidden in your desk drawer, a brand new pen or journal, etc. What a question.
that's a great question. So, practices that I wish I'd known now was outlining. Like, I need to outline because I just did not know, like, I thought I knew story structure, but I didn't really, like, have it, like, solid in my head. So I was just writing and writing and writing and writing. So I wish I had figured out story structure early on. What about you, Jamie?
Well, a process, I guess I wish I would have been more aware of like less impatient, patience,
Mm,
I guess. And also because but see I feel like again I got to say a whole lot of words, but I started this to see if I could quote make money at writing, and it's turned into writing good writing. And
mhm,
so to get good writing requires the patience. So I don't know. I guess the two aren't as interlinked as I thought because I just didn't know the how of writing fast to make money back then.
mhm. Right.
So I guess maybe if I would have known stuff like if you want to make money at writing, write a series and market it this way, and like all of that stuff about what it takes to be profitable as an
Yes.
author, right? Like that
Mhm,
whole track, because then I would have had a better picture of what the commitment is that I'm making if I want to be an author who makes money writing
mhm.
books. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Do you have any crutches that she talks about?
So, back when we were doing writing retreats, coffee with hazelnut, only because that's what somebody brought. Somebody
I
brought the
remember.
hazelnut creamer, and then that just because we wrote so much that week, and after that, like, every time I would sit down, if I had coffee with hazelnut, like, my mind would get in the writing zone. NaNoWriMo, my crutch was always cherry Pepsi and a Snickers, but now I don't do sugar, and so now it's cherry Coke Zero and, that one brand of sugar-free candy,
The
they make
Russell
a
Stovers?
Russell Stover makes a candy that's just like a Snickers, well, it's just like a Snickers, and so that's my thing is the Russell Stover's, Snickers dupe and a Cherry Coke Zero. It's something about it just gets my mind like, "Okay, now we're working. Now we're serious." So, what about you, Jamie?
As far as crutches, no, I don't. I'm boring that way. I don't think. I guess it just is. No.
No? Alright. It's fine.
All right. So you got one more question. Do we want
One
to go
more.
through your last one and then we can go to the yeah.
Now see, now you don't know I shouldn't have said this all came from my head. This could have come from a listener. We don't know. What did you think the first time you met Jen?
Oh my gosh, the first time I met? Well,
Hon
okay.
You gotta be honest. Our
Mm,
listeners
all
deserve
right.
honesty.
oh my gosh, that poor woman has cancer.
Oh,
Like,
golly. I forgot that's when we met.
yeah,
Oh,
you are the woman who has cancer and is
yeah.
still coming to writing group and is still like, and I'm like thinking, my life would be over. I would take to my bed and expect everybody to just come and bring me my food. And like, here she is, still doing life and like all of those kind of thoughts, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you have the cancer card, nobody can think bad thoughts about you, right? Like, you couldn't be like, "Man, she's obnoxious," or,
But
"Wha
she has cancer. She won't be with us long anyway.
I better be nice to her." Boy, did I fool you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Ah.
Ah.
All right, let's see what I can pull out of here.
If you're just listening to us for the first time, normally we have a much better podcast than this. That's much more informative and
Although,
encouraging.
once someone hears the answer to this question, they might feel very informed.
Oh, okay.
If you were given $1 million
Mm,
today, how would
yes.
you spend it? And let's just presume you have to spend it. Like you can't save it. Let's say you have to spend the whole $1 million today.
Besides a new vehicle, because mine is like, I'd probably buy a bigger house. Like, I know, like, I've been like all about, oh, this is big enough, and because we're gonna be debt free, and debt free is great, but $1 million, I'd be debt free. So I'd probably buy a bigger house on Lake Michigan, and but I
Mm.
just spend it. We're not talking like donating it to the church or you know what I mean, like all that stuff, right? Like
Yeah, let's
I would
say
tithe off of
spend.
it,
Yeah,
spend,
spend.
cool, go to Europe with my girls, go shopping, get mani pedis, and I probably would get what do you call a mommy makeover? What is that? Like, yeah,
Mm.
tip, tuck me wherever, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, what would I spend that like when you have that kind of money and you have to spend it? Like, it's just stuff, right? Like, I would want experiences. That's what I would spend it on. Would be like doing things with my girls. Go to Europe, go to my one daughter wants to go to Japan really bad. Maybe we do that. Hawaii. Oh, I could spend a lot of dough in Hawaii for sure.
Yeah, it's expensive there, that's right.
Yeah.
Although you're being really presumptuous. I mean, after you buy your new car and fill it with gas, you're probably
It's
done.
true. I'm probably done because I want a truck, and they're like,
Uh-huh.
"Man, they're expensive." So
Yeah,
that's funny.
right?
That's
Mhm.
hilarious. What about you? What would you spend it on?
Probably land
Mm,
and a business of some kind, because my
mm,
thought process would be to replace it, or maybe a few businesses, or maybe I would just become partners in several businesses.
mhm.
But yeah, very pragmatic, I guess. Boring. Shell said when she first saw the live podcast and met you all, I was so excited to find like minded ladies who talked openly about faith and were so generous with their knowledge.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Aww.
Oh, we really appreciate that.
Yeah, notice how I'm not asking Jen what she thought of me when she first met me.
Yeah.
Bullet dodged. Like the Matrix. All right. Should we ask something again from our listeners?
Yes, absolutely.
All
Because their
right.
questions are way better than ours.
Okay, Cindy Dow says, "What are your thoughts on identifying tropes of your genre? How, why, have you, etc. And if you have, do you alert your audience of their inclusion in your story? And if so, how and why, and all of that. What do you think, Jen, about the trope question?"
I would say first, no. I mean, I like because I definitely write to tropes. Like in my
Yeah,
genre, like just kind of speaks to that. And so I definitely write to tropes. But I wouldn't announce it. I don't feel a need to do that because for me, my genre, romance readers, like they
they
just want
want it.
they want it to be familiar enough that they like know what they're going to expect and um the only time that they might know what kind of trope it is if I put it in marketing, like in Amazon, if I put it in the metadata somehow or somehow in the title, like enemies to
Enemies to
friends
lovers.
romance that will warm
Mhm.
your heart. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That helps sell it that way, but I wouldn't like feel the need to like announce it to my readers. My readers are just going to want to discover what it is. And hopefully
Yep.
within, like, the first, like, chapter, they're gonna know, right?
Yeah.
Like, if
Mhm.
like, because that's when the meet cute happens, and if they hate each other, you're gonna know it's a friends to uh, friends to lovers or enemies to lovers, or if it's gonna be, like, hopefully, not always though, because mine are a little bit more deeper than just straight up romance, I think, a little bit more, spiritual aspect to it, so what about you? You don't really write the tropes.
No, and it's probably like to the detriment of like my marketing campaigns and things like that. Like I kind of tend to be, I'm writing this story. And then it's like me later trying to be like, now what kind of story is this? And so it's totally a different animal.
Mhm.
Yes. All right.
Shell says, "I would retire and invest and run a used book coffee shop." I would
Ooh.
just come there. I would come there and spend $1,000,000 on it. I just don't wanna be the person that has to, like, stay there. I wanna go all over the place. Maria says, "All shell sounds cool. My first impression was Jen on Twitter talking about the podcast. I thought that sounds cool. I had no idea it would become such an invaluable community for me." So see, Twitter works. See, I
Aw.
should use Twitter more often. So I never knew that's how you found us, Maria. So that's exciting.
That is
So
exciting. That's really
yeah.
amazing. And I could ask you, Jen. Joanne has a question specifically for you. What would
Okay.
you say has been the best slash most successful way of marketing your books?
Hmm. Um, I would say for sure advertising. So or marketing. Okay.
Like paid ads, you're saying?
Paid, yes. So the paid marketing, we had an episode about email marketing, paid email marketing,
Hmm.
making my book free for so long. Now it's not free. It's just in Kindle Limited, but making my book free as a stepping stone into other books and then marketing it that way is thus far been the most financial, the best marketing tool I've used. I am in the middle of trying something new, so I don't want to speak too much on it, but I think Amazon advertising might be doing even better for me, but it is a long game. It's not like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy this ad," and then all of a sudden, like where email marketing, I pay for this email marketing and then I see an immediate response when that email goes out. Advertising through Amazon is more of a slow burn. But I think long term that might be better for me. But yeah, as of right now, the best thing I've done has been things like Faithful Reads and Fussy Librarian and things like that. That's been the best one for me.
Well, and then I would say too, it depends on how you're measuring success because as far as building your newsletter, having that reader
True.
magnet was really a positive
True.
marketing result for you, right?
Right. True.
All right. Well, we have time for one more question here, and hopefully I'll get one of the good ones out of here because you know that over under toilet roll question that is
Yeah.
in this. If I pull that
Oh,
one,
is it really?
it is. All right. Ooh, what is your favorite way to spend a day off? Jen, do you know what that is? Do you know what a day off
I
is?
have no idea what a day off is. This is something that who was I talking with about this recently, that like my life is going to change dramatically. I still have my
Oh my
family, kids,
goodness.
but like
Yeah.
so much of my life has been scheduled around helping take care of my mom, being at the nursing home and
Carrying that emotional weight has been a big part of your life,
yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
probably the negative space that is now there is going to manifest in a way you can't even predict.
Mhm.
So if you start to feel like in some way not yourself,
Mhm.
just kind of turn back inward and wonder, or maybe be assured that it's just you trying to cope with that
Right.
because that's going to be a vacuum, you know?
So I think one of the things about me is that, and I don't know why I'm like this. I probably need to have some sort of counseling session with Becca to figure this out. But like when I do have free time, I fill it with things, projects, but things I want to do or want to have. And maybe I just have too long of a to-do list. Like, um, what I've been doing all week is working on our trailer so we can go camping next week. Now that's kind of a necessity. We can't camp if the trailer's all tore apart. So we're trying to get that done. So I've been very busy and it's been great because it's been keeping me distracted. Um, so to answer the question, really the only thing that I really can do on a day off that really makes a day off is to go to Lake Michigan. Because when I go to Lake Michigan, I go there. We swim. I chill out on the beach. I usually take an audiobook or my Kindle or something like that, and I don't generally even end up listening to it or reading it. I'll just sit there and watch the lake and just actually relax, and that's really the only place I do that. Everywhere else, my mind, my body has to be constantly moving, and so, yeah, Lake Michigan, that's what I'm gonna say. What about
Yeah,
you,
that's
Jamie?
amazing. What is your favorite way? Notice the word favorite is back.
Oh, what's one I must change it. What's one way, Jamie, that you like to spend or what's one thing you like to do on your days off?
I really like to shop, and I'm
Me
not one to
too.
buy a lot, but I really like to shop. So if there's stores that just have the cutest, most unique, whatever, or
Like thrifting.
local. Thrifting is great. Yeah,
Mhm.
but, like, so if you go to, like, a beach town, not so much the souvenir places, but some whatever. So, like, that's what I used to like Frankenmuth because you could just wander around and say, "Look at that weird thing they have for sale," you know? And it's not even like I want the $1,000,000 to spend it. And, a lot of times it's like, I would buy this for so and so, and I would buy that for so and so, you know?
Mhm.
And, that's, I think, why I used to like to take my kids like to the mall because we would just walk around and then I would look and see, oh, people are wearing vertical stripes with flower prints. That's interesting. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
just really like to just shop, window
Mhm.
shop and browse. Yeah.
Love
Mhm.
that. I love to scrapbook too, but scrapbooking for me is always kind of a social thing. Like, I would b do it
Yeah.
with friends, and I think that it still feeds into my I'm doing something for someone else because the scrapbooks are always for, my children or my mom or whatever,
Yes, it's
and
more
so
like a fun way to get a task done that you feel
yes.
you need to get done. So it's not really a day off, is
But
it?
I'm with all my friends, and while we're working, we're talking and just catching up, and I love that part of it, so,
Mhm. I like that.
yeah.
All right. So I think that we've had enough questions, unless anybody wants to chime in the chat with something burning they just got to know the
One
answer to.
more. We have
One
to
more? All right.
if you woke up one day to discover that the chapter you wrote the day before came true, much like bedtime stories with Adam Sandler, what would you write about?
Oh, so you get to pick it in advance.
Now keep in mind, this is a rated G episode, always. So what would you write about if you could make it happen the next day?
Oh my gosh. I will tell you in advance that my writing sprint is something that I would like to happen tomorrow.
Really? Well, then let's just move on then.
All right.
That's a great transition. Everyone, thank you
But
so much for adding your
yeah.
questions into our Facebook group. And again, if you are not a member of this Facebook group, you need to go over there. Great people over there. It's a great community that's growing every single week, and we just have a lot of fun. So
Yeah. And you can get your writing questions answered. Jen, do you want to answer the question? What would you write about if you could make it come true the next day? Have you got anything that comes to mind?
I'm sure it'd be something really romantic. I'm not even kidding. Which is what I write anyway. So it probably have to do with money and romance. That's all I But I'm
Yes.
sure I would, like, craft it really well. I would
Yeah.
say which I did not do with this writing prompt for sure. Well, we'll
Really?
talk about yeah. So, for those of you that are, like, just tuning in, we didn't even publish the prompt because guess what? We didn't come up with a prompt until we were ready to write.
No,
This has
it's
been
been a
just one of
week.
those it's been a
Yeah.
week, and so, we just did 5 words, and then we wrote, and it's kind of raw, like, I'm kind of, like, not wanting to share it only because, like, I'm afraid that it's gonna come off as me being really bratty, but I think that it's, like it was very good for me to start writing this, but I think it needs work, and there's more that I really want to express with this in a very heartfelt and loving way, but, there wasn't time in 15 minutes, so,
Do you
yeah.
wanna read it?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Yeah, and tell us what the words are.
Okay, so I lost it. Where is it? There it is. The words were illness, reaction, tube, height, and slot or slot.
With an
Slot
O.
with an O. I know my Michigan accent can make it sound okay. I didn't know your mother was senile. In all my mental preparedness for the visitation hours, I had not prepared for this. The remark was made by a friend of my late grandmother, a woman well in her 80s, into her 80s, so I shouldn't have been surprised by her use of a pretty antiquated word. But it sounded so harsh, almost vulgar, that it kind of stopped me in my tracks. I nodded and just said, Alzheimer's disease. She was diagnosed with it years ago. hoping that my words would convey that we had in no way tried hiding her illness. If that had been the only insensitive thing said to me over the next 2 days, I might have forgotten it, but it wasn't. Not even close. Nobody told me your mother was sick. Should I have taken out a billboard? I didn't even know your mother was in a nursing home. How would you? You haven't reached out to my mother in years. How did it happen? How did what happen? Her death? She stopped breathing. Look, if you can't be bothered to take a moment to read the obituary, the one I lovingly wrote, the one where I clearly state that my mother died after a long battle with Alzheimer's, then I can't be bothered to make small talk with you. At least she's not suffering. Do you know how much she was suffering? I mean, we're all suffering until we get to heaven, right? But what are you really talking about? But I didn't say any of those things. What did I say? Yes, she was sick for some time. We kept her home as long as possible, but after her last hospital stay, it was taken out of our hands. She passed Thursday night around 12:30. We were all there with her. I miss her very much. Thank you for coming. Then I moved on to the next person that needed my condolences because that's what funerals were for the immediate family to make everyone else feel better. And the whole thing just made me feel worse. The end.
Yeah.
So that's why I was kind of a little nervous about sharing it because the whole thing wasn't like that. There were lots of people there that were great. There were it was just a few, and I think that a lot of it is people feeling awkward. People don't know what to say. They don't think first before they speak. I get all of that, you know. But there were
Well,
some. Go ahead.
this is reality also, because the part that you just said is the Christ, like, grace, and like, but we're gonna forgive them, and we're gonna, but that does not mean that the other feelings aren't valid, that you're not entitled to have those feelings, that there's something wrong with you that you felt those feelings. Both can be true. Both can be
Mhm.
true, that you have grace and love in your heart for people who do an oopsie
Mhm.
and it hurts you.
Mhm.
You are not wrong to have those kinds of feelings. Both can exist. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Agreed.
It's really well done, I thought.
Well, thanks. It needs a lot of work, but I had a conversation with the funeral director and I told him my thoughts on how this is before we even had this funeral, but I've had several with him the past few years.
Yeah.
And I said that funerals aren't for the immediate family. It's for us to make everyone else feel better. Everyone else comes in the door and we have to tell them the story over and over again and we have to, like say oh, anyway, there was a few rays of sunshine though, and it usually came from people that had just lost someone and they understood. And one of them was one of my son's friends. I call him my son's friend because my son is about to be in his wedding in a few weeks here. But he's a kid that I've known since he was like 2 years old. He spent a lot of time in our house growing up. We always call him the seventh tongue. He calls my little girls his little sisters. I mean, like he's that close to us. But he lives in Lansing, and this he's met my parents many times. But anyway, he showed up and, he lost his dad last summer, and he came in and he gave me a hug. He's like, "I just want you to know I love you and I'm sorry." And that was perfect. That's really what someone who's lost someone needs to hear. They don't need a whole lot of questions, and I that's why I wrote the obituary the way I did, so people wouldn't have to ask me what happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was clear in the obituary. So, just having people understand the few people understand and know what we're going through, that's what it matters, and you just get through it, and again, this is just a ceremony. My mom was gone on the 14th, and that's when I had my breakdown, was at the nursing home. I didn't wanna leave, it was bad, and I was okay at the funeral because, like, that wasn't her anymore. I knew that wasn't her. That was just the shell that she used while she was here, and she left me on the 14th, and I said goodbye then, and I was okay, so
Yeah, I think that the culture of
Mhm.
funerals or whatever, the death industry, all of that kind of thing. It's really moved away from kind of when we had people come to our parlor, because
Mhm.
if you think about it, who would come but the people who are closest to you? And their intention of coming was to support you. It
Mhm.
was not about you hosting a party. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's really a different kind of mindset. Like, you should be going to support someone in their grief, not but most people go for their closure, right? They are going for
Right.
their, and it's a very interesting perspective to think about it from both sides of it, as someone who's going as a mourner. um why are you going? What is your intention behind
Right.
going?
And I
Interesting.
don't think everyone has the intention, or it just might be how they, present it, and it comes off that way. Does that make sense? Like,
I do, yeah.
'cause I know I've gone to the funeral home, and my intention is not for them to make me feel better, but, like, the more funerals I am a part of, the more I, like, try to be better when I go to funerals. Like, it's just an awkward situation, and people don't know what to say, and I get that. And so, trust me, I love everyone who came, and I hope if anyone's watching this that they don't, think that I'm offended by them. Not at all. Again, this was a free writing exercise that helped me get out some of my just, feelings or whatever. But, like, most people did want to, like, tell me that they love me, and some came in with some great stories with my mom, and yeah, so it was good. So
Awesome. Well, I'm
so
very glad you shared.
oh, thanks.
So is Shell. Shell says, "Wow, Jen, thanks for sharing that." And then Maria says, "Oh my gosh, Jen, that was so powerful. I'm sorry if anyone made insensitive comments like that. You didn't come across bratty at all. I agree. Just a very human reaction to those comments. So well
Yeah,
done.
and
Completely agree."
yep, and those comments were, 100% said to me. None of those were made up. That was the one thing, is those were actually said to me. So
All right.
more than once. The one about, "I didn't know," like, more than once. Like, I would be embarrassed. Like, if it'd be one thing to say, "I'm sorry, I had no idea." That's one thing, but to say, "I didn't know," as if, like, you're like, it was somehow my wrongdoing that they didn't know. That's the funny part. But alright, let's get back to something better. Let's read yours.
All right. Again, if I could make this come true tomorrow, I completely would. And also, if you watch me, I record my sprints, and a couple times I forgot to click go live. Well, that was one of those days today, but I did remember and go back and click live about a minute into it. So you can actually write me craft the second part of this if you go to our YouTube channel. Okay. There used to be a water park in this mall, I said, so overcome by a wave of nostalgia that I swore I still smelled chlorine on the air. You're kidding, my daughter said, her eyes scanning the wide tiled expanse before her. Right here, actually, I said, running my hand along the painted cinder blocks, which were once painted blue and hosted the Hydrotube logo. It was all tube slides, and the place was called Hydrotube. There was nothing in the vacancy now, and the more fanciful part of my imagination longed to put in an application for employment solely in order to have an opportunity to someday crawl around behind the scenes in that particular part of the building. I wonder how much of it is still back there. My daughter was not wondering, but she wasn't impatiently waiting either. Her long form simply stood relaxed, waiting for me to give up my reverie and accompany her on our real mission for the day, locating a suitable pair of shoes for her first day of high school. Thanks for waiting, I said. Let's take a look. We wandered over to the large triangular cement bulwark that had hosted the mall directory for time immemorial and discovered there were a total of 5 options for us: 3 department stores and 2 specialties. Slim pickings, I murmured, and felt the ghosts of my ancestors cluck their tongues and shake their heads. My oldest daughter would have said, "We'll find something, come on," and led the charge to the store she wanted to try first. But this daughter only once again waited, her hip popped, her left hand in her back pocket, her expression neutral. Looking at her, my heart suddenly filled to bursting. I wanted to grab her and hug her right there in the middle of the mall. But
Oh.
though I pride myself on being the weird mom, such a maneuver crossed even my line of decorum. Instead, I engaged. "What are you listening to?" I asked, my eyes flicking to the tiny speaker in her ear. Again, the ancestors clucked their tongues, but I knew they were just jealous this time. In
Mhm.
typical middle daughter fashion, she said nothing, only reached up to deftly remove the tiny hairdryer shaped piece of plastic from her ear and reach over to pop it into mine. This is good, I said. What is it? Height of illness, she said. Their latest. Cool, I said, as she withdrew her hand and returned the hairdryer to its proper home. You want to try Macy's? She shrugged. Okay, I said, we'll start there. We scuffed along together, and while she watched the people passing by, I watched her, wondering what she was thinking. I knew the answers would come if I were patient, shared later over cardboard trays of noodles and pizza slices purchased at the food court.
Mm.
I smiled and marveled for not the first time that 3 children born to the same parents could be so entirely different. My boy would be chattering endlessly. My big girl would be charging through the crowd, barely aware of the others around her, and hardly concerned about whether or not I was keeping up, so long as I was there to produce and swipe the card at the time of purchase. I love you, I wanted to say. But again, there was the line. I wanted to take her hand, as I would have when she was about half as tall as she is now, but I knew that would cross her own line, even though I wanted to believe she would indulge me anyway. I had just decided to swallow down my frustration when I saw her shrug out of her jacket and knew she was prepared to tie the sleeves of it about her waist. Let me carry it for you, I said. She gave it to me, and though she didn't smile, her steps became just a little bit lighter, and so did my mama's heart.
Oh, Jamie, I feel this so deeply. Our kids are about the same age,
Yeah.
and, man, oh, I feel this so deeply. The whole, like, the retrospective of, like, you look at her how she is now, and you just realize, like, you want to do the things with her, like, when she was like, you wanna hug her, you wanna hold her hand, but you just know, like, you can't because, like, she's not there anymore. Like, she'll
Mhm.
always be there in your mind like that, and but you like, in your story, your character or you, whatever, is far more, like, I would have hugged her. My my kids, my poor kids. I'm con I'm constantly, like, loving on them as if they're still little, and they just, "Okay, fine, mom," and then, like,
Mhm.
they deal with it, but yeah. Oh, I deeply, deeply feel this. So well written. And your description, always. Like, hair dryer shaped, like, the perfect like, you can totally see her the earbuds as she's putting them in, that they're AirPods without saying they're AirPods, and just very, very well done.
I
Like,
appreciate that.
yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I liked writing that. And the whole thing was that tube. There legitimately was a tube slide park in Lakeside Mall, where I grew up in Sterling Heights, Michigan. And I have always wondered how much of it is still in there. Because,
Mhm.
in my youthful fancies, no one has like a screwdriver and like big machinery that could like take it all out. It's probably
Mm.
all been gone for
Mhm.
decades and decades. But I like to think that back there in the catacombs are the remains of the hydro tube, you know what I mean? And that you could
Mhm.
possibly turn it on and
Right.
play around on it while the mall was closed. Like, it's ridiculous. But
So I remember that too, because see, even though I grew up way up here in Otisville, my mother grew up in Detroit. So when we went shopping, now again, that was something else. My mom and she was an epic shopper. We would leave in the morning, we'd be there when the mall opened, and we would hit every single store. We would look for the bargains. We would sometimes close the mall down. Like, we would be there all day long. And I never shop. We almost never went to Genesee Valley until I was 16 and I could go on my own. I would with my friends to Genesee Valley, but um Lakeside, 12 Oaks, Somerset. That's where I shopped. And so, like, I always had clothes kind of like a little bit before the kids in my school, the fashion and stuff, because I would go to
you were in the
Detroit to get it.
city.
I
Yeah.
was in the city. And so, like, it kind of gives me like nice warm feelings to think that it's possible that you and I were in the mall at the same time as kids shopping. It may
I
have just like, I
know.
know, isn't that cool? Like, I know. So,
And we both know the same mall. Someone recently posted a post about Lakeside Mall, and there's these pits with couches in them. They're still there, Jen.
are they really? I've not been
Yeah.
there in forever because it got kind of like not
It's
great.
a
So,
ghost town now.
is
Yeah.
it a lot of our
Yeah.
malls have been. Like, 12 Oaks and, Somerset are not ghost towns. They're beautiful. They're still fully, like, but the other ones, yeah. So, Shell says, "Jamie, so beautiful and emotionally impactful. Great descriptions and brought back lots of mall memories of me and my mom, and then me and my daughter on mall trips." Same
Yeah.
here. Yeah. My of my 3 girls, only one of them likes to shop, and I feel like I failed as a parent.
1 out of 3 ain't bad.
I know, and she's the one that's always willing to go with me and do anything. It's the other 2, I'm always kinda like, "Come on, why don't you and I just go shopping?" And they're like, "Mm, I'm going to the grocery store, you wanna go? Will you buy me something?" "Well, yeah, I'll buy you something," but, you know.
Wouldn't it be more fun for you to come along and pick something out? No.
Right.
Alright, so we're running out of time, Jen. What's
Alright.
next? What's next? I'll go first. What's next for me is sadly not a whole lot of writing. I'm a little behind on an editing project that I have for a certain someone. So I'll be doing that. But in our Facebook group, Maria Johnson posts a work in progress Wednesday, and you can go there and take an excerpt from your current work in progress and post it. And because I've been participating in that, my novel is fresh in my mind. And I'm
Mm,
like, I love this novel. And I am so excited to get it polished up and produced for everybody that when I finished my edit project, I think I'm going to be returning to that. And the plan was to try to record the audiobook for it.
mhm.
So maybe I'm going to get serious about actually getting that done, because in the course of reading it aloud, you do make changes, right? And I've
Right.
already decided that there are some things in there that I just handle with a sentence that I think need to become several paragraphs to a chapter. So the
Which
book
I
may actually
love hearing you
grow.
say that because I think that there's so many places, like, with your writing, I would just love you to, like, expand and give me more. You know, I know often you feel like, 'cause I think that sometimes when you read other authors and they go on and on and on, they're droning on and on and on. So you're
Mhm.
worried that you don't wanna do that, but you don't do that. You are such an awesome writer, and when you do expand, it's poetic and beautiful, and I want more of that. So I'm really happy to hear you say that.
I appreciate that. I'm really looking forward to this next pass through with it. And it feels good to be excited about writing again. And
Mm.
it's like, to be honest, I really just want to get the book published because I want other people to be able to read it, because I really do think it's just a really great story. And so that's got me all jazzed.
That's exciting, and I can't wait to hear the audiobook too. That's super exciting for me.
What are you working on?
I'm going on vacation. I was supposed to leave to I know,
Wow.
we are supposed to leave today. Our we have our church, our district, our denomination has every year a good old-fashioned camp meeting down at our church campgrounds, and it is this coming week, and we were supposed to leave today, but the camper is just quite not ready. When I say not ready, it's not just cleaning and stuff. We bought this fifth wheel, and it was tore all apart because she was gonna remodel it and then didn't, and so we got a great deal on it, and I'm glad it was tore apart because I actually wanted to, like, paint and do some things to it, but it just means that, like, so when we got it, I had time, but then my mother got sick and passed away, then a funeral, so now I'm, like, really on a time crunch because, like, there aren't doors up and there aren't, like, we have to, like, get things put back together, so
Like
I
the
think.
essentials, right? Like
Yes,
just,
like,
yeah.
we're not even gonna be painting the bedrooms yet because there's a bunk room for my girls, and then there's the bedroom up front for us. So we're not doing anything in there. It's just, like, getting things put together and painting some things, like, because there was already plastic on the floor, so I kinda thought it makes more sense to do this stuff now, and anyway, so we're gonna go down there this afternoon and try to finish up, and then I think we're heading out tomorrow. And so, but I am going to take my computer in case inspiration strikes. I'm also taking a few new notebooks that I bought. So I may actually, if I feel like editing, I will. I may just kind of spend some time thinking about book one of the next series. And I realize I have the other books really outlined well. Book one, not so much because I spent a lot of time sprinting in that book, just
Mhm.
for fun, that, like, I don't really have a good structure for it yet. So I might.
Oh, you're right, because, I'm all about Colleen, and she's not book 1.
She is book 1. But
She
see.
is?
Yeah, but honestly, I don't have the structure. If you look at my outlines and my, like, I do, like, a virtual, people have seen I have one right here. I just don't know if I could grab it down. My little, the way that I organize my story structure, we call it a isolation booth. Here, I'll just do this. Pardon me
Who's
for
the brunette? Who is
see?
the brunette, Jen? There is a brunette who you sprinted about really super early on. Anyway, we'll have to talk maybe off camera about that because that who I thought was getting book one. And
Because Colleen has strawberry blonde hair. She's Irish.
right. Yeah.
So anyway, so this is actually Colleen's book, but there's a lot of like, you can't tell by looking at this, but there's a lot of blanks. So I may spend time really fleshing out like the more spiritual and like I can say, all right, they're gonna kiss here, they're gonna do this here, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like really what is their story, what is their struggle, what is God gonna do in their life? That's the parts that I really want to spend some time just kind of like marinating on while I'm down there. And I just really want to get fed by the Lord. So
Yeah.
my girls are old enough now that I can actually sneak out in the morning and go to the early morning Bible study, which I've never been able to do. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. So maybe I'll get some stuff done, but probably not. So that's
Well, you're going to be in the arms of the Lord and
mm,
really focused on Him, and that'll be really super good for you. I'm so glad for you.
thank
Which
you.
means, again, a reminder, no podcast next week
No
on
podcast
July
next week.
30th. And we'll miss you all. And we appreciate you sticking through us through all of this scheduling brouhaha or whatever. But if
Mhm.
you miss us, too bad. There's like 100+ episodes from the Wayback Machine that you can go
Right?
and look at. Some of it we can't believe we even still allowed to be out
I
there
know.
in the wild.
I know. We found one that was a test and it was still out there. And I shared it with Liz. I'm like, I can't believe it's still out there. We didn't take it down. It's still out there. It was some sort of test for right before we went live because we used to do this recorded. Can you
Yeah.
imagine if we were still recording this? How much stress that would be?
Ugh.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
we appreciate you joining us, and we hope that you'll see us in 2 weeks. But until then, that concludes this episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. Until next time, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.
bye, everyone.